Welcome to the AI Brief from the YPO Technology Network. I'm Stephen Forte. An AI coding agent at Amazon was given a bug to fix. It found a solution. It deleted and recreated the entire production environment. 13 hours later, AWS Cost Explorer was still dark in one of two AWS regions in mainland China. That is not the interesting part. The interesting part is Amazon's explanation. The company said this was not an AI failure. It was user error, specifically misconfigured access controls. And in the narrow technical sense, Amazon was right, which is exactly the problem. The agent did not break through the door. It used the badge it was handed. Every lock opened because every lock was supposed to open. The machine was not acting outside the system. It was acting inside the system with borrowed authority at machine speed. That is the story. Agents don't go rogue. They inherit permissions, they inherit approval paths, they inherit bad documentation, and most dangerously, they inherit identity. This matters because the next wave of enterprise AI is not chatbots writing polite emails. It is agents taking actions inside your company. Writing code, changing cloud settings, pulling data, calling APIs, opening tickets, closing tickets, spending money, and the old access model was built for humans. It was not built for 1,000 tireless digital workers who never ask, should I really be doing this? Let's use the Amazon case because it is the cleanest version of the pattern. In December, Kiro, Amazon's AI coding agent, was operating inside a human engineer's session. That engineer had elevated permissions for a legitimate reason. In the cloud world, permissions are managed through IAM. That stands for Identity and Access Management. Plain English version, IAM is the permission system companies use to give rights to people, machines, services, and now agents. It decides who or what can do what. Can this person delete a database? Can this service change a network setting? Can this account touch production? IAM is the permission layer. And in the Kiro case, as far as IAM was concerned, the agent was the engineer, not like the engineer, not similar to the engineer, the same identity, the same session, the same permissions. So when Kiro decided the best fix was to delete and recreate the environment, the authorization system did not say, wait, this is a machine making a surprisingly enthusiastic decision. It said, approved. That is permission inheritance. The system worked. That is why it failed. Here is the analogy. You hand an intern your security badge because you are busy and the intern needs to run an errand. The intern walks into the server room. Every door opens. Security does not panic because the badge is real. The system does not know the intern is holding it. Now give that intern API access, no lunch breaks, and the confidence of a junior consultant with a slide deck. That is the new risk model. The second inheritance problem is approval. After the Kiro incident, AWS reportedly added mandatory peer review for production access. Good, sensible, necessary. But notice what that fix admits. The prior architecture assumed humans would be the actors. It assumed the person with the keys would also be the person making the judgment. AI agents break that assumption. If the agent runs inside the human's session, the approval gate may be checking the wrong thing. It sees the human. It does not see the non-human actor using the human's authority. That is like requiring two signatures on a check, then letting one signer hand a stamp to an intern and call it governance. Again, the issue is not evil AI. The issue is old plumbing. The third inheritance problem is knowledge. In March, Amazon's retail site had a string of high-severity incidents, including a 6-hour checkout meltdown. Amazon acknowledged that one incident traced to an engineer following inaccurate advice from an agent. The agent inferred that advice from an outdated internal wiki. Read that slowly. The agent did not hallucinate in the cartoon sense. It did what agents are supposed to do. It read company knowledge, inferred a pattern, and advised a human. The problem was that the company knowledge was stale, so the agent was correctly wrong. Every company has this problem. The wiki says one thing, the actual process says another. The veteran engineer knows the difference because she was in the meeting 2 years ago when everyone quietly changed how things work. The agent was not in that meeting. It just read the wiki like scripture. That is knowledge inheritance. Your agents inherit your documentation hygiene. If your documentation is clean, current, and owned, good. If your documentation is a corporate attic full of expired processes and optimistic diagrams from 2021, your agents will industrialize that mess and ship it faster. The fourth inheritance problem is identity. This is the one CEOs should care about most. If the agent has no separate identity, the audit log cannot tell you what happened. It records the human. The postmortem says user error. The dashboard says Stephen changed production. The system does not know whether Stephen made the decision, approved the decision, watched the decision, or had coffee while the agent made the decision for him. That is not a small distinction. That is the difference between accountability and theater. The autopilot crashed the plane and the flight manifest only listed the captain. Amazon's official line on Kiro included a sentence that is worth taking seriously. The same issue could occur with any developer tool, AI-powered or not, or with manual action. That is true. But the frequency changes. A human may decide to delete and recreate a production environment once a year after a meeting with a ticket and hopefully with someone nearby saying, "Let's not be heroes today." An agent can decide it in seconds. Same mechanism, different velocity, different blast radius. And that is where the money starts to show up. The visible failure is often not a security incident, it is a bill. There are already reports of agentic projects failing because of hidden costs, retries, debugging loops, runaway API calls, and compute burn. One documented case involved a single agent burning $47,000 over a weekend in an API retry storm. Another involved $1.2 million in GPU compute before anyone noticed. An API retry storm is exactly what it sounds like. A system calls another system, the call fails, so it tries again and again and again. Each retry looks reasonable in isolation. Together, they become a cash register with a networking stack. This is the part executives underestimate. Agent risk does not always arrive wearing a black hoodie. Sometimes it arrives as a cloud invoice. That is why AI safety is the wrong frame for most companies. The practical frame is control design. Can you list every agent in your environment? Does each agent have its own identity? Does each agent have the minimum permissions needed for its job? Can your audit logs distinguish between a human action and an agent action? Do approval gates bind the non-human actor, not just the human account around it? Do agents know which documents are current, which are retired, and which were written by someone who left during the first Trump administration? This is boring work. Inventory, service identities, permission scopes, expiration dates, approval workflows, audit trails, documentation ownership. Nobody puts that in the keynote. It does not sell the magic. It just prevents the magic from deleting production. Give Amazon real credit here. Shipping agent registry and a managed agent harness is the beginning of the right response. That is not denial. That is engineering. Most vendors would have written a blog post about responsible innovation and quietly hoped the invoice landed in another department. But the lesson is bigger than Amazon. If you are deploying agents, you are not just buying software, you are adding a new class of worker to the company, non-human, fast, cheap, persistent, hard to see in legacy audit logs, capable of using whatever authority you attach to it. So here is the Monday question. Where in your company can an agent inherit a human's permissions? Where can it inherit stale knowledge? Where can it pass through an approval process designed for humans? And where would your audit log blame the human? Because the system has no separate name for the machine. If your team can answer those questions in writing with systems and owners attached, you are ahead of most companies. If not, you may still deploy agents. You will just be doing it the exciting way. Here is the line. You are not deploying an agent. You are giving a non-human actor your senior engineer's keys. If you have not redesigned the locks for that fact, the deployment is not the strategy. The deployment is the bill. That is the YPO Tech Network AI Brief Weekend Edition for Saturday, May 2nd, 2026. I am Stephen Forte. If this found you on a Saturday, share it with a fellow member who could use the perspective. I will be back Monday with more. Until then, stay sharp.